Thank you very much for that. I haven't done anything yet, but lovely to see you. Welcome to this very sneaky preview of the Tattooist of Auschwitz. It's not out till the 30th of April, 2 o'clock, so you can't say anything about it till then, not officially anyway. I'm Jason Solomons, an absolute pleasure to be with you tonight to delve into this. Well, you've only seen one episode. There are 5 more that follow. There is, of course, the book as well. So we're going to get a chance to really delve deeply into the process of making it, the craft of making it with the artists and crew and people who assembled that. And I'm going to be joined on stage by 5 of them. So let's start by welcoming the executive producer, Claire Mundell. Claire put it all together, and she started by finding the director, Tali, Shalom, Ezer. You've got the making of a huge star playing the extraordinary part of Lali. It's Jonah Hauer-King. And of course, Lali wouldn't be anything without his guitar. It is, of course, Anna Prochniak. And under the watchful eye of this man, everything takes place. Would you please welcome from Germany, Jonas. And of course, would you please welcome the woman who's playing the person that, why we're all here, the woman who wrote the book, Heather Morris, played brilliantly by Melanie Lynskey. Well, would you please take your seats, ladies and gentlemen? Well, congratulations, everyone, on your work in it. I mean, it feels like we're a huge panel, but we're only scratching the surface, really. It's a huge undertaking with a great cast and a great sense of responsibility. Melanie, if I start with you, just because you're furthest away, so I feel like I have to shout, but I'll start with you because you play Heather Morris, who is in the book because she wrote the book, yes, but she's not really in the book as a character, but she's very present in this as a character. Can you tell us a bit about playing her in the present and being the person that sort of brings this project together and the way you felt about playing that person?
I mean, it felt like a really big responsibility because she did not expect to be a character in the series, so I think at first she was a little nervous about it, but was so generous with me, so kind and loving, very involved, like was looking at costumes and stuff like that and saying, yes, I would wear that, no, I wouldn't wear that, which to me was so amazing to have somebody, there's no like thing in the back of your mind that's like, oh God, is she going to see this and hate what she's wearing or whatever. She's already, and I love that you let her have that level of involvement. And there's also like a freedom to it, I guess, because there are so many fans of the book and people read the book and they imagine whoever, no pressure to you guys. But, you know, there's no Heather in the book, so nobody's like, oh, Heather should be played by this person or whatever. So I feel like I kind of got away with it.
I mean, lots of people will have seen you in so many roles, but forgotten perhaps that you speak with an Antipodean accent. Nice to see you playing. Not your accent, it's Australian accent in this one. But was it nice to come back?
She is from New Zealand, but she's lived in Australia. But thank you for catching that, because I was trying to incorporate a little bit of Australian.
It gets there.
Yes, thank you.
It was lovely. It's you know, we'll come back to you, but it's a key element. I mean, Claire, when you were adapting the book, the decision to put Melanie and that level and the later life Lali in there, well, that must have been a key decision, because I think it really brings it to the present, and it's why we're talking about it now. It's still current.
Absolutely, it was one of the very first decisions we made about the development of the show, and Jacqueline Persky, our head writer and fellow executive producer, was inspired by the foreword in the book, where Heather Morris speaks very very clearly about her memories of meeting Lali for the first time, and it seemed to us that that provided a door through which we could tell the story in 2 time frames, and also, you know, enable the audience to have an access point. You know, Heather is the every woman. She's the person in the audience who took the time, or could take the time if motivated to do so, to listen to someone's trauma. And so that felt like a way for us to be able to literally show that we were telling Lali's story from his point of view, because the truth is no one would know this story were it not for the fact that Heather Morris and Lali spent, you know, the last 3 years of his life together. And you know, it was a form of therapy and healing, and she listened to him as he tried to rationalize his memories and his trauma.
Yeah, I think that's what comes across. One of the reasons, you know, it gives us a reason to come out of the horror of Auschwitz and the camp and go to the sort of sunlit area of, you know, Melbourne where it takes place. So that's the sort of relief it gives. But it's also about, as you say, Claire, it's about uncovering some trauma, Tali, I think, and that's an area of perhaps that when you read the book, you're not quite conscious of the trauma that is dormant and comes back 40, 50, 60 years later.
Yeah, I mean, it is a relief at times, not always. Some of the most, I think, difficult, confronting scenes are in this beautiful light of Melbourne, in my opinion. I think, you know, the first time I met the real Heather Morris, I was so moved the way she speaks about Lali with so much love and compassion. And I think the relationship that they had, it's quite unique. We know that many Holocaust survivors cannot share their story. I mean, my grandfather was a Holocaust survivor. He never shared anything with us. And just, for me, the way the story is unfold, this is a prominent element of our story. The show is a lot about memory and trauma, and the nature of trauma is that the fragmented way that Lali remember the story. And this process that he is doing together with Heather, recreating, retelling his story and creating his narrative and creating some meaning to what he went through, that was a really significant part of our show.
How did you decide on the sort of the two looks, the present and the past? Because the past comes into the present with the ghosts that pop up in Lali's apartment, but I say it's sunlit, and then how did you do? What was it like filming them? And did you do two different segments? Which one came first?
I don't see it as looks, if I'm, to be honest with you. For me, I'm a storyteller, and my job is to tell a story with images. So for me as a director, I want to think, what is the story that I'm telling? And I knew it from the get-go that everything has to be from Lali's perspective. I want to be as close as possible to his memories, to his perspective, the way that he viewed everything that he experienced. And he's telling a story that took place 60 years ago. And when we read his testimony, and also other testimonies that people that experienced Auschwitz, it felt like a nightmare, like they just were trapped in a nightmare. It was almost like surreal. It was hard for him to believe that this is like actually now his new reality. And I wanted to convey this.
The ghost element of the story was in the scripts from the beginning in terms of the way that we wanted to tell the story, and you know, we spoke a lot about how to achieve dramatically, how to convey dramatically the sense of trauma, and so those ghosts appear in the apartment, but also there is a storytelling approach whereby Lali shares with Heather, this woman he's just getting to know. He shares some of his memories, but then when she leaves, he shares with us more of the truth, or you know, some darker memories, and that is a very conscious choice to try to, you know, play with narrative form to express the nature of trauma and memory and shame, because ultimately he was carrying misplaced shame as a 86-year-old man. He was still carrying that trauma. But it was from the very beginning in the DNA, wasn't it, of the approach?
Absolutely, and it was part of the development. You know, it wasn't like one decision. Overlook. It was we developed it as we worked.
Did Heather, when you spoke to Heather, Melanie, did she recall? Sorry, about to have some water there. Did she recall sitting there, hearing this testimony and her feelings on it? Because there's a lot of reaction in your face. You do a lot of work in just listening, which is quite a difficult task, but it's a brilliant task, and you do a lot with your eyes about kind of modulating what processing the information you're getting.
She did talk to me about it, but honestly, it's all in the script. So the script was plotted it out. I'm going to put this water bottle down that I'm awkwardly holding. It was all, all the moments of things she was thinking were in the script, basically. And then also I just had utmost faith in Tali and just such deep respect. And, for a number of reasons, I needed a lifeline, and I just trusted her. Like, that relationship, when you can have that kind of relationship with the director where you just absolutely believe that they're going to know what the tone is supposed to be. And she's very, very good at, knowing to, bring it down and make things very quiet and take time. She was always encouraging me to take, long beats, long moments. And I said in an interview today that a lot of the time we did 2 takes, because I would do a take and you'd like it, and then you'd come in, and I said she's like a surgeon. Her notes are so precise and so specific, and you can't not take them. So the next take would be what you wanted, because your notes are that good. And I mean, when you have that kind of relationship, she was willing to take the time and sit in the moments, and I trusted that she knew what she was getting. So just very, very grateful for this amazing woman.
I'm grateful to you, Melanie. Thank you.
Wonderful answer. Before we go into our actors who are in Auschwitz, when you set the scene, we've all seen it here being built. The set, I suppose you could call it, but the Auschwitz itself was, in a way, a terrible set because it was being built. Yes. Where did you construct yours, and how much research did you do to base it on the original? We
shot in Slovakia. We built the set outside Bratislava. It was for a television project. It was an extremely large practical set. With 3 lorries, articulated lorries, with huge green screens, bigger than this screen, and they basically, we had to build a perimeter road round the set, and the lorries with the green screen drove round the set, and we positioned them as we required them for the set extensions that we knew we were going to do. But even though the set was so huge, in our context, it is nothing in relation to the size of the real Birkenau camp. I don't know how many people have been to it, but when you go there, you just cannot fathom the scale of it. And of course, in production, we have to make decisions, schedule, budget, all kinds of practical decisions. But our guiding light was that we had to build parts of the set that related to the memories that Lali was sharing. Our production designers, Stevie Herbert and Pilar Foy, 2 kick-ass women, who just went to Slovakia, took that construction team of all men, apologies to men, but, and they just were like, right, we can do this. And I was blown away by how they approached it. It was a huge challenge. In terms of research, we had a historical and cultural consultant, Naomi Grin, involved in every aspect of the production for all departments, and we were researching through Naomi and various other sources. We all went to Auschwitz-Birkenau together. The first thing we did as a team at Synchronicity when we optioned the novel was we went to the museum and we spoke to them about our intentions and what we wanted to do. And then as members of the team came on, we all went together because we had to see the real place to even begin to have an idea of how on earth we would construct this and reflect it. And of course, it's a television drama. We can never ever portray what happened there. All we can do is provide, through the medium of popular drama and storytelling, is a platform for people to be moved and engaged, and hopefully from that they will be motivated to go and find out further, education and information.
So if I turn to our stars, I hesitate to say stars in such a performance. In fact, what I admire about your performances is how you have to sort of keep them low and modulate them over 6 episodes, but also in this situation that you find yourselves, because we see a little bit of Lally prior to the camps, and then he becomes a different person in the camp. So Jonah, tell us a bit about how maybe that visit to Auschwitz stayed with you throughout and informed your character throughout as you were playing him, and the preparation that you did for that.
Yeah, I'd been as a young man when I was about 14 years old, and went as part of a history trip. And then when I was offered the role, I actually went on a solo trip separate from the creative team, although I did wisely take a friend. At one point I was going to go completely on my own, which would have been not the best idea. And I felt I did it partly to pay my respects, but also because I really did want to see it through Lali's lens. At that time, I had read the book a number of times, and I had started my preparation and my research into him. And so much of the story, as they've described, is about his relationship to the camp and his day-to-day and his routine and the geography of the camp. And so much of it is through his lens. And so I felt like it was important to go and see that. But for anyone that's been, they'll know it's an overwhelming experience.
And what's the experience of, sometimes you put on a uniform, for example, you put on this uniform which is, for want of a far better word, but it's an iconic uniform that signifies some kind of horror. What's your feeling on putting that on and embodying it and wearing it?
Yeah, it definitely felt like a moment. I think I was so desperate to tell this story with the utmost sensitivity and respect, and I think before I started, I felt like the best way of doing that was to approach this just with focus and professionalism, and I think I was a bit naive as to the profound effect that image in the mirror would be. I thought shaving my head for the first time would be the least of the work, and it definitely, because of the associations it has, because of what it means to shave your head in that context and to take someone's identity and dehumanize them, it was very poignant. And the same with really with every aspect of it, with putting on the uniform, with traveling to that set for the first time. I think you really couldn't underestimate what an effect it was going to have on the crew and the cast. And I think so much of the job for us was trying to find this balance between knowing that what we were doing every day was how we were trying best to honor these memories, was to tell this story and not make it about us, and to not make it about how we were feeling and how upset we were, because it felt indulgent somehow. But at the same time, if we weren't being impacted by this day to day, I don't think we were doing our job properly. And particularly as actors, when you want to be present and the scripts are what they are, and you're working with these wonderful actors who are giving these incredibly committed and moving and frightening performances, it was impossible for it not to hit home and really stay with you.
And that comes across in the best way, may I say. Anna, welcome, nice to see you. From Poland, is that right?
Yes, from Poland.
Exactly. Which is, Auschwitz is in Poland.
Auschwitz is
so
in Poland,
it's something that, I know it looms large in Polish history. But this is a fantastic role for you, Gita. Tell us a little bit about playing someone who finds that spark of love. There's a scene, I don't know if you saw episode 1, didn't you? Wait till episode 2. There's more of her in episode 2. Actually, you only saw a little bit of her. She's fantastic in episode 2. You really come alive. There's a sort of a strength between the two of you that's very dangerous. You play this love story that basically can get you killed. Loving each other can get you killed. It's a very high stakes sort of love. Just tell us a little bit about how you found the part of Gita and what you did to research her, because it's quite a physical role the way you play it as well.
Yeah, to prepare to take on this story, I watched Gita's testimony and those of many other survivors. We worked closely with Niam Green, our consultant.
So you watched her testimony?
Watched, yes.
It's filmed,
yes,
is it?
it is filmed,
Yeah.
and you watched Lali's testimony, right?
Yeah, there was. They both did testimonies in the 90s, which were incredible to watch, and then Lali also did a testimony to Heather, of which there was kind of extensive footage, which was so illuminating.
Yeah, and I talked to Heather Morris about her experience telling Lali's story firsthand, and I mean, I felt that it was just a great responsibility. It is great responsibility to play a real character. And it's very scary. It's exposing. It's terrifying for an actor, and I wanted to do it with my utmost respect and to give her all to do it as honestly as possible. To give her all my sensitivity, all my vulnerability, all my love and compassion, and this is the way you can approach it. And I have dancing background. I used to be a dancer before I became an actress, and I believe that our bodies are much more smarter than our minds, and they can remember everything we have experienced in our lives. They remember emotions, they understand them. And when I tried to approach this subject matter and character of Gita, I quickly realized that I won't be able to do it just... I mean, I cannot imagine what she's been through. And I had to find another way, and I really believe that we can connect to the emotions through our bodies. So that was like a starting point for me. I always start from the body awareness, and yeah,
as we can see, that it's a very physical.
It is
necessity. There's a lot of flesh. There's a lot of body. That comes out. Sometimes the characters are naked. We see them. Even the act of tattooing is a physical.
It is
piercing.
And I believe that deep emotions are physical rather than intellectual, right? And you cannot approach it like this. You cannot analyze it. You cannot overthink it. That's not the way. That's not the right way. I mean, yeah, our imagination is limited on this subject.
I'm going to bring in Jonas, because he's behind you. In true pantomime villain style, he's behind you. Jonas, we've seen you in some fantastic German dramas of late. This is the first time I've seen you in a big international production. How's your... I ask Jonah, what it's like to put on that uniform. What's it like to play this sort of character for you? I mean, obviously most people find you evil, but actually as it develops through the next few episodes, the relationship between you and Jonah changes, and we see a lot of your character.
Well, to be honest, putting on this officer gown, this SS officer gown, for me each and every morning, and then putting on the boots, sometimes being the only one having a real uniform and boots, and walking side by side with Jonah, who was skin and bones at that time because he just lost so many weight for his role, and approaching with him this built-up camp with sometimes hundreds of extras waiting there, shivering in their prisoner gown, me being the only one having this uniform on, was just a weight that I sometimes couldn't really bear. It was just horrible. And that's the physical reaction of me was just panic, I guess. Sometimes it was hard for me to get out of this state of panic for what I'm representing, to go into acting. Sometimes I felt that I really had to jump over it to get to act, and I was so reliant on the interaction with you two, in particular, when we were acting together, that I was feeling like, okay, we have to kind of carry each other along the way. We have to hug each other under, so to get to work and to tell the story, because we all felt this responsibility to tell the story that Lale Sokolov wanted us to tell, or in first instance Heather, and now us with our medium film to transport it. And being an SS officer, being Stefan Baretsky, was part of that. It was a necessity, and I wanted to fill that part. But sometimes it's not been easy at all. It started with listening to the real Baretsky. So I didn't have any testimony, of course, but I had a recording of Stefan Baretsky from the Frankfurt trial. That is open source. You can listen to it on YouTube. You hear him, like, I don't know, 45 minutes defending himself. That was one of the first steps of my research, listening to that man I should embody, listening to him talking rapidly with a very strong accent, and still you get these, in a few seconds you get the impression that he has no feeling of guilt at all in this moment, and that he really tries to justify the horror, the sadistic, lethal games he played with prisoners in a way as if it was just as him just being an executive guard, just following orders, you know. And to take that, I was at some points I was like, I can't play that. I just don't. I really think I can't play that. And
did you share that with Tali? Or did you say that to her? Did you admit that to her?
You know, before I came to that point, actually, I told you, yeah, a few times. But there was the first time Tali and I really met was when I was coming to Bratislava. I was taking an overnight train from Hamburg to Vienna. I didn't sleep at all. I was so scared to my bones. And I came to the production office, and you two were the first ones that I met in this room. And they were, you were just smiling like you're smiling now. This was exactly the same expression on your faces. And we were hugging. And Jonah was looking down at me. He's looking down, of course. This tall, handsome man looking down at me with his grace and this warmth in his face, and Tali as well. And they were like, we're so glad we're doing this together, you know. We're so glad we're gonna go this journey together. And I was just like shaking, saying, "Really? Wow! Yeah, I guess I'm too. Yeah." And from that point on, that was kind of the atmosphere that was so desperately needed for us to really like get there each and every day and give our very best, but to carry each other through our performances, through our interactions, through the whole process.
Mm. But you guys are the new generation. You guys are the younger generation, and I guess, Claire, that a new generation of viewers to Holocaust drama, to this story, are going to come because this is a big production. It's been sold around the world. Some people will come to the story who don't know it, or you know, in the current climate, it's a vexed question. Some people even deny it in certain areas. So the testimony of it, the playing of it, you're taking on of the memory, and you're relating to that memory. It takes on a huge importance. It's not just a TV show.
No, of course, absolutely. And we started developing this, you know, nearly 6 years ago, and you know, at that time the book had connected with so many people around the world, but now this book is, you know, sold in excess, well in excess of 13 million copies, and I always say that means 2 people in a household have read it. So, you know, like the numbers are huge. And for me, like when we were looking at this back in those times, I just was really struck about the contradiction of how you know, after doing a bit of research, I discovered to my real horror that awareness of Auschwitz and the Holocaust was, amongst young people in particular in the UK and in the US, was, you know, almost non-existent. And yet here was this book that people were reading and buying and sharing, and people typically that you wouldn't expect to be drawn to a book about the Holocaust. So we now, hopefully through the medium of mainstream drama, we can take the story to that wider audience. But yeah, of course, it's a huge responsibility. It's not like any other TV show I've ever made, and we feel that.
Many, you say, through the medium of the TV show, and many approaches to the Holocaust have been made, from the victims to the perpetrators now, different prisms of it. Very few have done it through love. And I wanted to ask you, Tali, how you balanced that, I suppose, to the actors as well, because there's a love story here, a great love story, against horror. So some people would probably feel nervous, queasy even, about a love story in this situation. How did you bring that into your tonal scope?
I was very scared. I was very scared to trivialize. That was my fear, to trivialize like the Holocaust story and to make like, you know, when we talk about love, so it's lighter and it's unexpected emotions that Lali experienced there, because you know we're used to hear stories from Auschwitz, so we're expecting like a range of emotions, but. Joy and excitement are usually not the emotions that we're expecting. So yes, I was nervous about it. I think that Lali and Gita, like the real Lali and Gita, they were very brave. They were very brave to say no to this process of dehumanization that they went through. And their love was an act of defiance. So they were brave, and we tried to be brave as well, and not to be afraid of portraying this very gentle, intimate moment within this context.
It's probably, though, the biggest single conversation we had through the whole process, wasn't it? From beginning to end was tone. What is the tone? Is this too light? Is this too dark? Is this respectful? Is this, you know, how do we balance the tone here? That was a really active, all the way through to the ADR, the visual effects, the finishing of the show, the music, every aspect of it.
Oh, you mentioned the music, by the way.
Yes, the music.
We haven't got him here in the room. He'd probably have to be there. Hans Zimmer.
Yes, Hans Zimmer
did the music, which I think is his first. I hesitate to say TV show, but it's his first.
Certainly his first British TV show. Let's claim that one. Yeah. And I guess if I had £1 for every time I'm asked, how did you get Hans Zimmer?
How did you get Hans Zimmer?
As producers, we get people as if we've got some kind of lasso that we just. And the honest answer to that, and it's the first time it's ever happened in my entire career, but I have to say, Hans Zimmer came to us. And that's the truth. He saw our press release about the show. He got in touch with Sky. He said, I want to do this show. I need to speak to Claire and Tali and the team making the show. We were on set.
We still didn't realise that that's what happened.
We didn't realise that
because we're excited.
We're so used to him. Pitching.
Hans Zimmer's on the phone.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we had done like
Frank
a
call.
14-hour day on set, terribly challenging day. We get home, it's a Friday night. All you want to do is have a gin and tonic. It's at 11 o'clock at night. You've got to pitch to Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. And within about the first 5 minutes, I texted Tali and I was like, this is very
What's
strange.
I
think
while
he's
we're zooming
pitching
with
to
him,
us.
I think he's pitching for us.
Yeah. He was pitching, and he actually said, after he'd done his whole incredible, you know, pitch, he then said, "Look, can I just be really straight here? Like, I really want this show. Can you please just please trust us to do the music for your show?" I was like, "I'll think about it. I'll call you tomorrow."
Good. Flip down the Zoom. It wasn't just him. He does work in.
Cara Talvi and Russell Emanuel, the score producer. I mean, it's just been the most joyous experience. I mean, really, truly. To work with them has been incredible.
It was like our therapy sessions.
Yep.
It does add, you know, obviously score. I don't need to tell people what the importance of score is, but it does add such a layer. But tonally, it's vital. You can't just say to Hans, do what you want and put all your violins all over it. You know, you've got to. It's got to be sensitive.
Yeah, I would have liked to see his face if I'd said that. Yeah. The music is, as the series develops, it just grows, and it's incredible. You know, in every episode there's a different take on the themes, and then there are some really amazing surprises coming up musically in the show.
Well, can you? Because we've only seen the first episode here. You are, of course, going to see all 5 more episodes, but you're going to have to wait a little bit. Although they will be streaming from May the 2nd, all episodes available. without any spoilers, but as you say, 13 million people have read the book, or maybe 26 million. So people said, what can we expect from Lali and Gita, from Jonas, from Heather down there? What can we expect to see?
Well, I mean, the most incredible range of performances, the most, searing insight into Lali and Gita's story and what it took to survive. And I mean, blown away by our wonderful cast here and the places that they went to honour this story.
Are you romantic, Melanie? Your belief in hearing this story of love flourishing in the darkest of spaces, to use some of the tagline, does it reinforce your belief in love? What is this?
Oh, I'm not one of those, like, you have one soulmate, that's it for life people. No. Sorry. I've been engaged, like, 6
I wasn't
times.
offering.
Honestly. Yeah. I'm romantic, like, for a while, and then I... Typically, not to get my husband scared. This is it now. Now I'm good. But
it's
yeah,
being filmed.
Historically. Sorry, I love you, Jason.
What about you guys, Jonah and Anna? When you see a love like this, maybe it's extraordinary. Maybe not everyone's like this, but maybe we have loves like this in the room. My grandparents were together. I don't know if they were together forever. What does a story like this do to you and shape your worldview?
I don't know more generally, but I can speak to this relationship in particular. And I think what stands out for me is that in so many survivors' accounts, you hear people talk about the fact that they needed to find something to hold on to, and they needed to find their purpose and their meaning. And of course, for Lali and Gita, that's what they are for each other. They're each other's lighthouse in a way, and it allows them some kind of shred of humanity. I think what struck me, though, is you could really imagine having survived this camp and to go through all of the emotional trauma and the physical changes and the geographical changes and having to rebuild their lives after something like this. It really wouldn't be very hard to imagine how two people could drift. They would be bonded by this experience, but it's such a traumatic experience. And the fact that they spent the rest of their days together and had a child, Gary, who's been with us this week, there's clearly something very special going on there. And I was definitely, fell in love with them and fell in love with their love. So for me or anyone else, I don't know, I can't really speak to it, but for them, I think it was, it was quite unique.
Yeah, that's a beautiful answer. What about you, Anna? Are you a hopeless romantic, or does the toughness of the world impinge on that?
I wouldn't say I'm romantic, but I do believe in love, and I think it's one of the strongest powers we have an access to as humans. And I think the ultimate, the message of the show is that we can always choose love over hate, and this is
I think one of the things that hopefully is unexpected in the show is that, I think there is an assumption that when the camps were liberated, the war was over, and people, those who had survived continued with their life, that somehow that was the end of the trauma. That was just the beginning of another form of trauma. So the story continues in a way that I think is unexpected, actually, and takes us into a different phase of their life together.
I totally agree with you. I believe in love. I mean, that was, you will have to watch all the episodes and then you tell me if you believe in it or not. But that was certainly my goal, to make people believe in love. But I agree with you, Claire. It's their connection was so pure and beautiful, but still, all their life, they carried the traumas with them. Their relationship started and almost initiated with the help of this man, who was abusing Lali in many ways, and it was like his game. I mean, I know that you haven't watched it yet, but something about the relationship is broken from the get-go. Like something is rotten, something is wrong, but love wins. But you will have to watch it to
I think
know what we
love
mean.
wins is a good way to end it. It's not a spoiler. It's what we want, I think, from life. It's a hopeful note on which to end. Listen, you've been fantastic in the show and creating the show. You've been fantastic tonight. Would you please thank Claire Mundell, Tali, Shalom, Ezer, Jonah Hauer-King, Anna Prochniak, Jonas, Nai, and of course, Melanie Lynskey. Check the RTS website for more events, and as I said, it'll be available to all episodes available from May the 2nd on Now, on Sky TV and other places.
All around the world.
All around the world, exactly, and here. Yeah. Enjoy.